to that's what everything that's gonna go in your meal. What do you call that? What's the French word?
Mise en
Everything's
place. Everything in its place.
yes.
It is essential to cooking. At least for me, it's essential to having a good time when I cook. Um, I don't know how people do anything but this. I never have to move. I just like sit in the same. I mean, you see any in my old videos. I just sit in the same spot basically, because everything's right next to me. Now, granted, my kitchen is designed pretty well. I just put on some slippers, get nice padding. My kitchen's designed really well. Everything is kind of right in this corner, but it makes it even better. Cool. So mise en place is ready. I think I'm gonna take it away. It's 5
Yeah,
o'clock. Let's make them
let's
rock.
go.
Sweet.
Everyone wants to just reminder to keep your speaker off if you can, and put it in speaker view.
Yeah, speaker view will make sure that I'm nice in front, and if your speaker's on, you're gonna somehow end up on the internet. So don't do that. But if I'm the one with sound, then I will stay in speaker view, which will be nice. Well, welcome everybody to our last Chef Cooks of 2022. And today we are saluting the Queen. I was about to do one of those, but I don't know if that's how you salute the Queen. Whatever. I guess we bow to the Queen, and we are going to make her favorite dish, at least claimed by her royal chef, which is Gaelic steaks. Gaelic steaks is basically just a really nice piece of meat cooked perfectly with a cream sauce. The classic Gaelic steak recipe has garlic in it. The Queen did not like garlic, so we are not going to put garlic in this dish, but she did like really good, fresh, local produce. And so classically, she'd eat it with parsnips and potatoes and carrots from her gardens on her estates. And so that's what we're going to cook it with tonight. And lots of cream and butter, because the Queen gave no, I didn't want to swear there, but she gave no S's about calories at all. That was not on her list of things to worry about one bit. So we're going to go crazy on it. I've got a whole pint of cream here, and all of this is going in our dish tonight. So be prepared. And that's kind of the fun part about this. It's rich, it's delicious. When the Queen ate, she ate, just a little bit. And there's a really cool video that we're going to post when we put this on YouTube. So I highly suggest watching that after this. Even if you just Google search it, you can find it, Gaelic steaks for the Queen. Cool. So yeah, so mise en place as per usual. I'm going to give you guys a quick little peek. You can already see on my stove, I've got all the pans I've got a nice my cast iron that I'm going to use to sear off my steaks and cook my my sauce. Got a big pot for my potatoes and carrots. This is probably too big. Not potatoes and carrots, potatoes and parsnips. This is way too big, but I just don't have like a 4-quart. And then I've got a shallow pan back here with some water in it that I'm bringing up to a boil right now. I'm going to turn that down, and we're eventually going to use that to poach our carrots. I like a shallow pan for it, just because the carrots are pretty shallow, so I can rest all of them in there. You could do a deeper pan, but then you end up kind of it's harder to watch it. So I like this nice, the temperature is easier to control because you got more surface area for it to steam off on. And then as per usual, right next to that, I've got all of my mise en place for everything we're going to cook tonight. I got my carrots, my potatoes, all my meat, pretty much everything, my compost over there, my whiskey. For the first time ever, Chef Cooks is going to cook booze. I usually don't use wine. You guys who've been on here before know I usually just use vinegar for any dish that calls for wine. But there's not much of a great sort of replacement for whiskey. You can't really get that sort of it's not even acidic. It's a deep sort of bite that is really really unique. So I want to make sure that's involved, especially with the cream sauce. It's going to really come through in the end. And there's no way to get that without the whiskey. Take the whiskey out if you don't want it. You can always put some more miso in there, which is what I'm using instead of Marmite. I just got some miso left over. That's going to give sort of a similar deep flavor, but something about that whiskey bite, it really really makes the cream sauce feel like it's not as heavy as it is, which is I guess a good thing. So without further ado, we're going to jump on into it. Let me just make sure we got a nice scene here. Seems about right. So things going to take the longest is probably going to be our mashed taters. So we're just going to get started on that right now. It's going to be potatoes and parsnips. So we're just going to peel these up. I personally like a side peeler for potatoes. If you guys watch me do butternut, I use a Y peeler for butternut just because it's easier to do long strips like that. But for potatoes, I really like this. You can kind of hold it in your hand, and you've got a little bit more control over over smaller ingredients like this. With something big like a butternut, though, I really do prefer a Y peeler. I have both in the kitchen, just so I can always use what I want to. And we're peeling them here just because we do want a really nice, beautiful white sort of potato or mash when we're done. We don't want any skins. Anybody who's listened to my programs knows I absolutely love skin. I will put skin in everything, carrots, the whole deal. But for this dish, we're going royal and fancy. And so we're going to make sure we peel everything and make sure everything is really, really nice and clean, cut, no extra fiber, just delicious. Whoa, slippery potato. Don't let your potatoes slip away from you. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of different techniques for doing potatoes. This is kind of the one I like the best. As you see there, basically, I sort of try and find the long part of the potato, and then I'll hold the potato as far back as I can on this side and do really long peels if I can. That's going to get most of the potato done all at once. And then I got to do that the top piece there, and then I flip it back over, and I'll just kind of trim up the rest of it. There's no really super fast way to peel a potato. I know there are apple peelers that work pretty well on round potatoes. It's a little like contraption. You put two things here and you spin it, and it sort of peels the potato off. Those work decent if you get nice round potatoes, but and these might work on that. I'm not sure, but any sort of weird looking potato, you're not going to have such good luck with that. But apple peelers can sometimes be pretty useful for quick potatoes. If you really don't want to worry about it, just don't peel them at all. Like if you like the skins in there 100%, just go for it. It's not going to change anything but the fiber content and the nutritional value. It's going to be a little tougher when you go to bite it. It's going to look different on the plate, but I mean, if that's the way you like your potatoes, do your potatoes that way. That's certainly how I like them. If I was cooking this for myself, I would do medium rare on the steaks, and everything would have skins on it, including the parsnips. I wouldn't even care about that. Carrots too. I'd probably roast the carrots, but we're doing what the queen wants, not what Chris wants. Tonight is Chef Look cooks for the queen, not Chef Look cooks for himself. So we're skipping the garlic. We're peeling things. It's going to be it's a whole new experience, but don't expect it to last long. My New Year's resolution is to eat as many skins as possible. Sweet. So those are our potatoes. We'll do a little trimming on those once I peel these parsnips. But one thing that's really good in saving time in the kitchen is always try and do things in batches. So I'm using the peeler right now. I want to do all the things I'm going to peel right now. Then I can put the peeler in the sink and be done with it. I don't have to ever think about it again. I'm going to break that rule a little bit because I want to get these in water and boiling. So I'm going to skip before we do the carrots. But if I wasn't in a time crunch, I would probably just do the carrots right now too. All right, so these guys right here. These are parsnips that are not local. Unfortunately, if you get local ones, they're going to look a lot like this, but they'll probably be a little bit more knobbly. These ones have been trimmed at the top and bottom, which is nice. It means we don't have any tough stuff in them. So all we have to really do is just peel them. So we're going to do nice long peels. Again, a Y peeler would be pretty good for this, but carrots are small enough that this tends to work pretty good. Holding it up at the top end, the thick end here, just going to get the last of those bits that my hand was blocking, and we'll cut that part off. And it smells amazing. Oh my gosh. If you guys have never had a parsnip before, highly, highly suggest it. Don't be afraid of it. They smell like a carrot got mixed with, God, I don't even know what. But when they roast in the oven, it is absolutely heavenly. Some people don't like it. They think it kind of is like a very stinky, earthy smell, which it is. But I like stinky, earthy things. I'm a big fan of mushrooms, and so that's one of the reasons why it's really nice to have this in this dish. Not only was it a local vegetable that was available year round on the estates, but it goes really good with the mushrooms that are going to be in our cream sauce. And so it's not only a local choice, but it's a fun sort of taste pairing choice. Just potatoes are going to go good with mushrooms, but potatoes and parsnips is going to be like a whole nother level. And if you have parsnips with you right now, you're going to find that out. All right, guys, so these are ready to go. Let's go ahead and chop them into nice small pieces. Some people like to take the core out of the parsnip. You can actually see it there. It's kind of like this part right there. I'm not too worried about it. If I was cooking this for the queen, I might try and core this and like cut around it, specifically for her. But honestly, I might whip out a really fun kitchen tool later, and we might get to take a peek at my ricer, and so those cores aren't going to matter because they're not going to make it through the ricer. They're going to get sort of hung out, and they won't be part of the final dish. So I might just whip the ricer out just because it's so much fun. I pulled it out the other night because I was making pierogies, and you really want a nice smooth filling. So I'm cutting these fairly small because I want them to cook pretty quick, honestly. But you know, the larger they are, the longer they're going to take. But also because the tip here, I don't really have any size control on, and so I want things to just be the size of the smallest bit that I can cut. That's generally a good strategy if you're ever cutting anything. Whatever the smallest piece, you know, is going to be that you don't have any control over, the tip of a carrot or whatever it is. Try and make everything else about that size. So we're going to go ahead and pop these here. Uh-oh. Can't waste anything. Where'd you go? Get over here. Pop those in there, and then we're going to cut up our potatoes. There's not a lot of mash. The queen wasn't a big eater. I mean, this is definitely not like a small amount either, but she wasn't a big eater. So we're doing a pound of each. I think there's a little bit extra potatoes. And that's just, you know, just enough to get a nice little scoop of the meal. It's going to be very, very rich with all the cream and stuff. So I'm just cutting off little black bits here, and that's just different parts of how the potato grew. Sometimes it'll run into something while it's growing. Sometimes it just, you know, has a rough time. You know, they're grown underground, so there's a lot of things that can happen to them while they're down there. And these are Yukon Golds. In the UK, they have all sorts of different potatoes. Royal Jerseys, I believe, are probably what the queen would have ended up eating, but they're very similar to a Yukon Gold. They have a different skin. Yukon Golds, I feel like, have like a more of a brown skin. I think the Royal Jerseys have a red skin, but they're very similar. They've got a golden flesh. They're very creamy. I made sure to do some research before. Yukons are basically as close as we're going to get to what the queen would have actually used without actually going to the good old UK. I'm just cutting around that brown part. There's a lot of dirt in there, so if you actually get it in the mash, it can be a little bit gritty. And the ricer that I have does not have fine enough holes to catch that. So I'm just making sure I get it. Cool, that's perfect. Our potatoes and parsnips, I'm cooking them together. The parsnips are going to take a little bit longer, but that's okay because I'm mashing it. I'm not super concerned about overcooking the potatoes. The parsnips will pick up the texture sort of that we dropped from overcooking the potatoes. If you were a big Stifler on it, and if you'll see in the video if you watch it, they did cook them separately, but that's totally up to you. So we're just cold water, fill it up to the top of it. Gonna salt that a little bit, and then we're just gonna put this on hot and let it go to town until they're soft. Awesome, so that's ready to go. We're gonna get our next root veggie going. That's gonna be the carrots, and we're gonna get those poaching as well. So the carrots are gonna be, we're gonna have a lot of fun with right here. I got these ones, they're the organic ones with the greens. So first things first, we're just gonna try and trim up the greens. These aren't great, they're a little dirty, that's okay. We're gonna clean them more, but you want just a little bit of the green. You only want enough so you can see that it was a carrot, you know, but you don't want too much of the sort of fibrous bits. And these aren't perfect, I'm not gonna lie. If we had like a baby carrot or like a spring carrot, they'd be a lot better. They'd have a smaller tip here. These are thin carrots. They look like they're young carrots, but I think they're actually pretty old. They just, for whatever reason, the way they grow them, they grow very long instead of getting thick. A younger carrot is going to be, you know, about yay long, and this sort of thickness is going to have a much smaller green stalk here. A thick green like that means that this carrot's just older. It's been around for a longer time, had time to sort of create more greens, but that's okay. We're going to work what we got. They're going to taste like carrots, which is really all that matters. So we're just, you know, like I said, trimming these off, leaving a little bit of the green. That green is going to poach actually much faster than the carrot, so it's going to be nice and tender, and we're actually going to be able to eat it. It's not only going to just look nice, it's going to taste good too. Carrot greens are really tasty. You know, you're not supposed to eat a lot of them, but I think there's something in them. You know, carrots in general are kind of a funky family. That's where you've got things like Queen Anne's lace and other sort of poisonous things right adjacent to our delicious sweet friends here. All right, so I'm just washing these, mainly just up by the top, trying to get that green bit, you know, a little bit more shiny. You know, and I might take a peeler to that when we're going. We'll see what it looks like. And we're gonna peel these up. So what we're looking for here is we're gonna try and shorten them up. I might just cut them right now, honestly, because they're kind of a little too long. And then from once they're shortened up, we're gonna kind of just like remake their tip basically. So let's go right there and just cut all those off. Most of those tips are kind of soggy and wet anyways. And then we're gonna take each one of these individually. You can hold it by the green, which is really nice too. It's another reason why I really like that. And you're gonna peel them, and you want to try and peel from the green if you can. What that's gonna do is it's gonna take some of that like that dirty brownness away from the carrot. And you're trying to, if you can, do these close enough together that you don't have lines. So if I do this right, it's going to look like it's kind of a clean carrot, and you won't see too many like hard lines. If I if I make like a hard line like this, you almost got like a point in the carrot. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. And we want it to look like it's a carrot, like it came out of the ground this way. Obviously, that's not the way it came out, but that's part of sort of high-end cuisine like this and cooking for people who have lived sort of a luxurious lifestyle, is that you want to make things look like they're pristine and clean all the time. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just sort of working my way here, and I'm trying to bring this to a nice tip, basically sculpting this carrot so it looks like a carrot again after I cut that tip off. And that's about right. It looks like a nice carrot. Once we poach that, it's going to be beautiful and cooked. The tip's going to be nice and soft. The core will have a little bit of crunch in it. This will be completely cooked, and we can just sort of rest that right on the top of our steak. It's going to look really nice. So I'm just going to put that aside. I'm going to do that with the rest of these. You guys get to watch, and we'll make it happen. Hopefully these ones go a little bit quicker. And nice long motions here. And a little twist is going to help you get that shape that you're looking for. And then you go about halfway down, and you start doing shorter ones around to sort of develop your tip. And again, right at the tip to get a nice sort of point, and then maybe just a couple over the whole length, kind of blend them together. And it's close enough. It's not going to be perfect. It might be perfect, but these are not perfect carrots, and so we're doing our best. That's one of the things you get in winter. You're not going to have as many plantings. We certainly don't have any carrots planted right now. That's awesome. Get myself a nice little tip here. You can really go to town with this and like take your time and get these tips like really, really fine and almost like a spear. But honestly, I think this looks kind of good. And I don't really like wasting too much carrot if I can help it. Awesome. Looking pretty. Nice. And peeling this is also going to help us nice. My water's just about to start to boil, which is perfect. When I put these in there, the temperature will drop a little bit, and they'll be probably right about where I want them to be for poaching. Peeling these is going to help them cook faster as well. The skin is definitely, it's meant to protect the vegetable. That's why it's there in the first place. And so, it also protects it from heat changes and being cooked. But when we take it off like this, it's going to have much better access to all the cell walls inside and getting them nice and cooked. So that's also going to speed up our whole process quite a bit. And if you have a compost, definitely save these skins. You could just save the potato skins too, and almost done like mixed up a little bit of salt and pepper and olive oil, put them in the oven and done like a skin roast. I really like that. If you get it dry enough, if you leave it in like a fairly cool oven, like 200 degrees or so, and you just sort of let them in there and dry up, you can actually crush them up into a little powder, and that's really tasty. It's a little bit of sugar from the carrots plus the starch from the potatoes. It's really nice to sort of sprinkle into sauces as a thickening agent. And it's just another way to use your skins, get some extra extra nutrients into your diet if you don't want to waste this food. It's important to make your money last as long as it can. So you don't want to waste stuff, you don't have to. There are ways to use it. Just kind kind of dehydrate those skins, crush them up, and put them into another dish. All right, so I'm done peeling. Woo, we did it. I got my carrots looking pretty good, looking kind of like baby carrots. I got 8 of them here. We're gonna go ahead and put them right in my water there and let them start poaching. I'm gonna put just a little bit of salt in there. I am using salt in this dish because it's just one of those things. There's a lot of cream. We don't use salt. It's just gonna taste like we're eating cream. And it's not like I don't like cream. I just don't. I want to eat something that tastes a little more like mushroom, you know. And so that's what we're gonna do. All right, so let's go ahead. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and get our steaks ready to go, just so I can get my board cleaned off here and start cutting up my veggies. And so I got some back straps here. These are venison back straps. They're not as big as they would be. It's a very similar cut to what you'd be getting if you were getting a what's called a loin on the cow. They're definitely a lot thinner. You can see the ones I picked this purposely because I thought it was going to be big, but it's not super big. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it, and then we're going to kind of like smush it down and make it look like a nice piece of meat. And so you know, like this back strap is the end of the back strap, so it's kind of skinny, but it's what it is. We're gonna do the best with what we got. So I'm cutting these into about 6-ounce portions. You can weigh them if you want to. You certainly don't have to. Let's see. So I'm trying to make some that look really nice, just so I have a kind of a nice plate. But I'm gonna have some weird pieces, and that's okay. Not a problem. That's gonna be the ones that are more about eating. So I've got 3 really nice ones, and then 3 really tiny ones that are going to be the last portion. And so these are my 2 kind of like favorite pieces. And what I'm going to do with this is, like I said, I'm just going to kind of place it on my hand, or, you know, any surface. I'm just showing you guys. You want to kind of just like tap it down and give it a nice little squeeze. What you're trying to do is just sort of make it into something that now resembles a piece of actual, you know, tenderloin that you would get from the shop, you know. Not too shabby, because, like, you know, that actually is like a nice long piece of meat, right? But you just sort of spush it down. When we cook it, those proteins will solidify, and we'll actually get something that looks just like this when we take it off, even though, you know, we kind of just hacked it together. That's okay. Hacking things together is what we do around here. And one thing I want to do too is get a nice flat end there where I can do my searing, because that's where I want to have a nice you know, sort of piece to look at. And these I'm literally just going to sort of like put them together. If I had some twine, I could definitely tie these up if I wanted to, but I'm not too concerned about them staying together. I'm just going to kind of smush them, and we'll treat them like one steak, but we'll see how it turns out. Cool. So we're going to go ahead, get the stuff off my hands. I'm going to go ahead and season those. We're going to season them pretty liberally. This is one of the best things about meat. You know, meat doesn't usually come seasoned. Seafood, I would usually say, you can kind of skip with, but with red meat, and especially venison, you really do want to give it a pretty good amount of season. So salt and pepper is all we really need. You could put other stuff on these, but like honestly, steak tastes really good, so it's not something that you need to go crazy on as far as seasoning. It's really you're just trying to make it taste like itself. And so a little bit more salt on the other side. You got to season both sides because you're going to eat both sides. And then a little bit of pepper. Awesome. So those are good to go. Just let those hang out for a little bit. They're still a bit cold. I want them to get to room temperature. And while they are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just cut my veggies, so I'll be ready to rock when the time comes. Awesome. Things are looking good. So we're going to start off with our onion here. Onion is going to be the first thing we put in. When I'm cooking for myself, I really do like to do my mushrooms first. I like to get a really nice hard brown on them, and then I'll put my softer veggies, or I should say wetter veggies in, like peppers or onions or anything else I'm putting in there. That'll help sort of like take some of the color off the bottom of the pan too. But for this, we want the mushrooms to be soft and really just kind of barely cooked. We almost want them to be a little bit al dente. And so we're not going to do that. We're going to put them in after the onions, and we're going to let them almost sort of more sweat down than saute. And that's going to let them be a little bit more pure in flavor. They're going to taste more like a sort of fresh onion or fresh mushroom. Whereas when you sort of sear them like that, you do get a lot more brown flavor and such out of them. All right, let's do that some more. Nice. Okay, oh, this is going to town. That's great. My taters a little stir. Oh, it smells so good. I can smell the parsnips already, which is just such a nice smell. Big fan of that. All right, cool. We're looking good, man. What's that? Slaying it. I'm gonna turn the fan on. Just check and see what we got for messages here. Sherry, let's see. Yeah. Oh, great. Miso. That is an awesome thing to talk about. Yeah, and we got white miso. Yeah. So great. So white miso is definitely a sort of sweeter miso. I mean, it's tough to say. It's a very salty thing, but mine is white miso too, and it's brown. So it's definitely not. It's not always. You're not going to find there. I've seen white miso that's like a really beautiful blonde color, but it costs like twice as much as the other stuff. And it came from Japan, so it's like you're just not going to get it necessarily in the States. But the basic difference is yeah, it's the type of rice that's used. It's the type of bean that's used. It's how long it's fermented, potentially different things that are put into it. There's a lot of different things that can make miso, but generally the lighter the color, white versus brown versus red, or rather white, red, brown. The lighter the color on that spectrum, you're going to ending up with a sweeter miso. It's got a little bit more sugar in it, content, and then the heavier ones are a lot more protein heavy. So it's really just more of like a flavor thing. But yeah, the misos can taste extremely different, even between like the same kind. Like two white misos aren't going to taste the exact same. So it's kind of fun like that. Our fans going on, which is fine. I think you guys can usually still hear me, no problem. Got my fork. I forgot a fork. Sheesh, you have mise en place. I'm just gonna poke my carrots. I think they're already starting to get a little soft, which is nice. I think I gotta turn this up. I don't know why it's not it was boiling and then it kind of didn't go back to a poachy temp, but that's cool. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get my pan hot here. We're gonna go ahead and sear off these steaks right now. So the onions, we want to do pretty small. I probably should have kept the root end on, but we're not doing like an actual brunoise. We're just gonna cut them fairly small. So you want to go in the front like this, and what you're doing is essentially cutting the onion layers apart. And then what that lets you do is it lets you go straight down for your next part as you turn it around. And then lastly, you can just come right here and cut off some nice pieces. So we're looking for a pretty small dice. I think that is probably a centimeter dice or so. It's something we want to be able to flavor the sauce, but we don't want super large chunks of onion getting in our we don't have to chew them while we're eating. We just want them to be a part of the sauce and the flavor, lend their really nice sweetness to the dish. The mushrooms are going to be our texture for this. All right, beautiful. We're ready to rock. That's the first thing I'm putting in the pan, so that's why I'm cutting it first. Make sure we're ready there. Those are going to take a while. Just let them boil for a bit. I might hit them with a little extra water. Cool. Okay, pan's getting hot. Awesome. So the mushrooms, I got baby bellas, or what these called, or porcinis. We're gonna leave the stem on. I really like the stem. It's super tender, and it looks cool too. And what we're gonna do with these, we're just gonna keep the cap up towards you, and you're just gonna slice pieces off, nice and slow. You want them to be fairly thick, not super thick. Those are gonna cook down and get a little bit skinnier as we cook them. But we do want them to be kind of substantial so that we can, we can see them and taste them and feel them while we're eating this dish. It's a sauce. It's not so much a gravy. If I was trying to make more like a gravy, I'd probably, really blitz these up to a much smaller, finer texture. So this pan's getting hot already. Awesome. Beautiful. Keep going on these mushies. Oh, yeah, parsley. And again, you just want the cap up towards you. What that really helps in keeping the stem actually on. If you do the stem up, you have a really high chance of just cutting the stem off. So if you put the cap up towards you, a lot of that pressure is going to go not into the stem, and you should be able to keep it on there. So if you lose the stem, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. This is getting nice and hot. We're gonna do a little bit of olive oil there in the pan. Get our steaks nice and seared off. And again, my stove still isn't fixed. I only have on and off on the front burners. So this is going to be very, very hot. I'm going to go ahead and put my steaks in there. I'm going to let them sear for maybe 2 minutes. I'm going to turn off my stove and I'm going to let them sort of hang out at a lower temperature. I'm hoping that is going to give us the sear we want. I'll turn my temp back on. So let's go ahead and put these in here. You want to make sure that your oil is on the pan when you put them in. You don't want them directly in contact. You're going to have some trouble with them sticking if you do that. Every time you put one in, you just want to sort of give your oil a little swish and then make sure you put your meat in a place where the oil is. Do that again over here. Beautiful. And then our last sort of hacked up piece here. Perfect. All right, we're gonna keep cutting up some meat, some mushrooms, get ourselves ready for the next. You know, as long as if you keep moving in the kitchen, then your meals are gonna get cooked a lot faster. It's totally okay to take breaks by all means, but I really like just like once I start cooking, just keeping cooking the whole time, chopping. You can do all your chops before you start if that's gonna be a more comfortable thing for you to do. You certainly don't have to do it while you're cooking like I'm doing here. This is so hot. So I'm actually just taking it off the heat right now just because it's so hot. I don't really want to get like a burn. I like a nice crisp, but we want it to look good. We don't want it to be like just totally burnt. I'm going to take a quick peek at this one. That's still looking okay. If you want some more instruction on, how to sear off meats like this in a pan, go ahead and check out. We did do a program a while back. It's on our YouTube, Edgartown Library YouTube. It's Dinner for Two, and we cooked fish and steak in a pan. Very similar to this. Actually, it was the same cut of meat from venison, and it's a really good program to check out. Teaches you about basting with butter. All right, so I can smell these now, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn them off. Really don't want them to burn. Trying to keep these sort of, I got two that look really, really nice as far as, looking like an actual piece of beef, but that's okay. It's just, they're going to taste delicious no matter what we do. So, all right, mushrooms, cut. This is probably more mushrooms than I needed. Way more mushrooms. That always happens to me. I buy mushrooms and they're like, this is nothing. And then you cut them up and they like explode. Sweet. Okay, that's looking good. So now the queen would want this medium well or well, which is the 4 minutes cooking is going to get you closer to that. We are currently rounding on about 2 minutes on the first side. And I think I'm going to give them a flip. I can always flip them back if I need to. And I can always baste them with butter if I need to. But I'm really, I want these to be fairly well cooked. But because I am going to eat this, I'm not going to do medium well. Don't tell the queen. And she's probably very upset at me. But I just can't do that to my poor baby venison over here. I got to cook it medium at least. So you can see, got a pretty nice little crust on that one. Definitely a little bit of a little hotter than I would have liked, but that's just cooking with high heat. What you got to do. Oh, this one's really nice. I like that one. Yeah, that one's good. It's got a nice little crispy. Definitely some like blacker spots, and that's just because of the way I'm cooking over here with this really, really high heat. But that's okay. That's gonna just be absolutely perfect once we get it all out of the pan and let it rest. That's going to soften up a little bit. It's going to be beautiful. Just going to hit this with a little bit more oil. When you're cooking with beef, you're getting a lot of fat out of the meat while you're cooking it. In this case, there just aren't. There's no fat in venison really, so I got to make sure I add a little bit more into the pan. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back on, get that heat back up there. And you can usually tell how you're doing with your cook if you look at the side of the meat. You can sort of see right here, the red is starting to disappear. The red is starting to disappear. That's going to give you a good indication of about where your cooking temp is. If the red's gone on both sides completely and it's sort of come from both sides towards the center, that's probably about a rare, medium rare. If you cook it, a minute on each side after that has been achieved, you're getting closer and closer towards well. And you can poke it as well, but it's a decent way to sort of check it out, see what you're looking at. All right, let's check these taters are going to town over here. What I like to do for potatoes is I'll serve the pan like that, and then I'll find one and I'll bring it up to the side of the pan with my spatula, and I'll just sort of push it against the side of the pan and see what happens. If it mashes completely, you're cooked. You're ready to go. What they're doing right now is I'm sort of pushing on them, and they're splitting, which means that they're still a little bit hard, but they are getting close. So that's a good sign. We're looking okay over there. These guys are looking really nice, getting super hot. Again, I'm going to turn that off now. My poaching carrots are still not quite as hot. I might have to cook these a little bit faster at the end. Let's see. Well, that's hot enough. I'm gonna give them a little stir, a little poke. Oh yeah, those are going good. Nice. We want to gently cook those. You can boil them if you want, but I really like a poach. Kind of, it's perfect because you have a lot more control over how cooked they are. With a boil, you look away for 2 seconds, all of a sudden they're mush. And mushy carrots are good. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes you want them cooked perfectly. Those are getting good. Ooh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out my handy dandy ricer. So some of you will automatically already know what I'm talking about when I said ricer. This is a ricer. It's really cool. It's got a bunch of little holes in it. This cup actually comes out, which is nice too, for cleaning. It goes in here. Put your potatoes in here. You smash them with this flat disc. They get pushed through the holes. They get really, really, really smooth. They look like rice, which is why it's called a ricer. This is also really useful for making dumplings, spätzle or spätzle. Specifically, you put the dough in there and you just kind of shake it, and it drips out of the holes into your boiling water, and that's how you get the cool little finger-looking thing. So we're going to use this to mash our potatoes, I think, just because it's fun more than anything else. It's going to make them really smooth too, which is always nice. Cool. So potatoes are doing their thing. Steaks are doing their thing. I'm actually just going to go ahead and turn these onto their sides now and start getting some sears on the sides as well. That's just going to help bring the temperature, sort of make it even all around. But I'm not going to cook these as long on their sides as I would on their ends. Both the ends look really nice right now. I've got sort of nice, delicious browning. But I'm just going to get the sides cooking, start to get that temperature stabilized and uniform, so I can get these out of the pan and start cooking the rest of my stuff. Once the temperature all around them is the same, when I take it out of the pan, that temperature is going to start radiating into the center. It's going to finish cooking the center for me and get me a really nice, hopefully sort of medium rare, what I'm going for. Oh yeah. And my little chunks that I tried to stick together have already fallen apart, but that's cool. I'm just moving around. They're still going to be a really delicious little part of the meal for somebody. So, and just a little bit more oil. The one thing about the backstrap, it really is like, there's just not a lot of fat in it, specifically it at all. It's a very, very lean cut of an already lean animal. So we really don't have a lot of fat helping us out here. So we just got to make sure we stay on top of that, put fat in the pan, make it tasty. You're gonna have a lot more fat too once we get into the butter part of this dish. All right, let's take a look at these taters. Close, close, close. Potatoes are basically done. The parsnips need just a little bit more time, so I'm just gonna let those rock. That'll be good. Check on our carrots over here. Nice, not too shabby. Oh, that could be why. It was up on the ledge. That would probably start to boil like immediately now. Great. Just gonna give these a little flipperoo here. Get all those sides done. I'm gonna take these small pieces off right now. A little bit more, maybe a little. Awesome. Yeah, okay, so that's why my carrots weren't poaching. They were up on the edge, so there was just like space beneath the pan and the heat element. Immediately started simmering as soon as I knocked them back down. Awesome. Well, that's why it's not on. I'm like, why isn't this searing? It's not on. Okay, cool, cool. Let's see if we got any new questions. Queen was not a foodie. Yes, indeed. She just liked kind of basic stuff. One thing he kind of mentioned is that she'd occasionally like come back from like a trip abroad and be like, "Ooh, I want my dish spicy today," you know, and he'd use garlic for the first time, or actually put some like something sort of spicy in there. And yeah, that's a really great video to watch. I highly suggest checking it out. It's just a lot of fun. Cool. I think these guys are almost there. One more little flip here. A little bit more temperature organization. Take the small boys out right now. I've got a little pan here just to rest them on, and it's also got high walls. That's going to catch all the juices. We're going to put that back into the cream sauce later, so that's why I'm trying to do that. So I'm just poking these right now to see how done they are. Really good rule of thumb, and it's called the rule of thumb in this case, not because of corporal punishment or whatever it is, but it's this part of your hand is a really good spot. If you relax your hand and you poke it, that's a rare. You touch your first finger, medium rare, second finger, medium, third finger, medium well, fourth finger well. Go ahead and give that a try right now. It's really fun to watch. That's how you tell if something's done right there. It's so simple. Rule of thumb, you move your thumb, medium rare, medium, well, or medium well, and then well. It's really, really useful. So based off of my my hand, these are currently medium. I'm going to take them off. Or sorry, they're medium rare. I'm going to take them off, and they should rest and come out probably a nice medium. So we're good to go. Heat's still on over here. I'm going to go ahead and take that off, turn it off, get myself some butter here to cook our the rest of our dish in. So I'm going to use 4 tablespoons later for our potatoes, and so we're going to use 2 right now, at least for the sauce or for these veggies. Oh yeah, baby. Getting that butter in there melting, and I'm going to go ahead and put my onions in now. Those onions are going to immediately start to release their juices, which is going to help me to get the fond off the bottom of the pan. Fond is basically all those like dark bits and crispy bits that cook off meat or veggies or anything that you're cooking in a pan. A good way to remember it is fond is a good foundation for a soup. So it's why if you're cooking like a meat soup, you might want to go ahead and cook off your meat in the pan before you do anything with it. That way you can sort of start to get that flavor out and into your dish or sauce or whatever you're putting in that pan. So these onions are going to get pretty dark right up away. Part of that is because I'm using a cast iron. So my cast iron is always going to have a little bit of like black bits on it from the seasoning and stuff. If I was using a stainless steel pan, these would probably be a little bit cleaner, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. I kind of like the way they look. So yeah, on the recipe, it says onions in there, then mushrooms. Then you're going to cook the mushrooms until they get soft, and that's when we're going to come in with our cream. our chicken broth, our miso, and then I'm gonna, while that's reducing, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna chop up our parsley. So let's go ahead and just let these cook a little bit. Probably chop the parsley once I put the mushrooms in. I'm gonna turn my heat back on. That way, oh my God, it smells so good. Just like onions and butter, man. Why do you need to eat anything else in life? Just put that over some pasta. Not even like, you don't even need the onions, just butter and pasta. It's such an underrated thing, you know. When like we're kids, I feel like, or if you have kids, you serve your kids buttered pasta, and you're like, I mean, that's all they'll eat. But like, I'm looking at you guys in the eyes right now. If you haven't had buttered pasta since you were a kid, go try it. It's good. It's really good. There's a reason why we like it as kids. There's a reason why our kids like it. It's delicious. It's so good. Even just olive oil is good. But man, buttered pasta is like, it's not only nostalgic, but it's just a tasty thing. It's delicious, especially when it's really good made pasta, you know? That's all you need. A little pasta water, butter, salt, you know, done. That's the dish. All right, I think my potatoes are done. Let me just go ahead and double check that. They sure look like they're done. Parsnips done. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and just, that's hot. Strain those, leave those in the sink. They'll stay pretty hot for a long time, so I'm not too worried about anything melting on them. And I'm also pretty close to being able to do that. I'm just gonna put my pot over here. That's really hot, so I'm not gonna use that. All right, onions are nice and soft. We're gonna go ahead and put our mushrooms in there, start to get them soft. This again is probably way too much mushroom, but that's okay. I might put a little bit extra chicken broth in the gravy just to stretch it, because I probably put too much veggies. But I just really like veggies. I don't know what to say. It's one of my favorite things to eat is good vegetables. Go ahead and mix those up. Awesome. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just transfer this whole pan over here, just because it's got better heat and a little bit more space. Right now, guys, we got mushrooms and onions in that pan, just getting them really nice and spread out. We're gonna let that hang out for a little bit and start to cook down. That's like getting really close already, which is nice. Mushrooms don't take a long time to cook, unless you want them to take a long time to cook. You can kind of cook mushrooms like they have a lot of protein structure in them, so you can cook them like really hard, and they're still going to keep their form, which is why I really like them. They're a lot of fun, just because of that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our ingredients ready here. I'm going to do the chicken broth in first, just because cream can have some serious problems if you put it into a really hot pan. We don't want it to break, so I'm going to put the broth in there. That's going to kind of temper our pan, get it ready for our cream. So it's a cup of each. Like I said, I'm probably going to put a little bit extra cream in there, or a little bit of extra broth in there. And then it's a 1/4 teaspoon of miso. So I just got that piece right there ready to go. I'm going to break that up a little bit because it's we want it to dissolve better. Nice. So as you guys see, I'm kind of doing this little chef flip here. It's very similar, if you guys have ever seen some other programs, to how I do the flip for, you know, like veggies if I'm roasting them in a pan. That same kind of vibe. So practice that at home. It really does makes life a lot easier, in my personal opinion. Those mushrooms are almost ready to go. I'm gonna start breaking apart my miso. Just want to kind of get it nice and flat, and then just kind of rip it up. It's going to dissolve really well once it gets into hot liquid, but it doesn't dissolve well in cold liquid. So it's not worth it to try and like pre-dissolve it in your broth, unless you're using a hot broth, which is totally a thing you could do. I'm going to check on my carrots here. Tips are pretty good. These are almost done. I might just turn the water off and let them sit in the hot water. Finish their cooking that way. Get our butter here for our potatoes. Awesome. We're looking real good, guys. All right, so these actually reduce down pretty good. I'm not super worried. I might just stick with the 2 cups and we'll see how things go. Whiskey. Can't forget that. Tablespoons. All right, let's see. It is cup of heavy cream, cup of broth, Marmite, whiskey, and parsley. So let's go to town. Oh, get off that heat. That is too hot. You just hang out right there for a second. I gotta make sure I do this right. I like know in my head how to do it, but I don't want to be like, this is what the recipe says, but I did something completely different. Whiskey, cream, chicken broth, and miso. That's what I thought. Okay, cool. So chicken broth first. Then we're gonna hit it out with the whiskey. You could have put the whiskey in there first too. Probably should have put the whiskey in there first. I don't have a gas stove, so it doesn't matter. But if you have a gas stove, you put the whiskey in there first and then flambe it a little bit. It's kind of fun. It makes your friends real excited and happy. So that's nice. Oh, I can already smell every little bit of that whiskey. So good. I just use a nice rye whiskey. I really like rye for drinking. When I do drink, I don't drink too much nowadays. A little bit of that miso in there. Oh yeah. And then we're gonna do a cup of heavy cream. Oh my God, it's so thick. Oh, you're delicious. And save that for our potatoes. I'm gonna put a little more in there. Just a touch. Let's crank that, baby. So now we're just gonna boil this basically. It's kind of like a nice light brown. It's almost like a stroganoff kind of sauce. We're not thickening this with anything. It's not like a bechamel. We're using like a flour and water mixture to thicken it. We're just gonna reduce it. We're gonna cook off the water that is in here. And in doing so, we are going to reduce this. It's going to get nice and thick, just like we had thickened it with a starch. And that's just because of the cream. The cream, the fat from the cream is going to start to sort of bond to some of the proteins, and we're going to end up with something really, really nice. It's very similar as far as like how it gets thick to what would happen if you mounted butter into like a wine sauce. That fat starts to like, or like a vinaigrette. You know, like when you make it like a blended vinaigrette, you get a nice, really thick sauce. So. It's a very similar sort of process. Let this boil up. It can boil. The cream's fine. Now that it's got the chicken broth in there, it should be fine. It should be fairly tempered. It's not going to break, I don't think, at least. So you want to let it kind of boil like that. Just make sure it doesn't boil over because it will boil over. Cream gets crazy. There's protein. Especially when it starts to get thick, the bubbles will actually get a lot bigger. But that's how you know it's getting close. So we're going to get our parsley ready here. I did something really dumb with my knife. There it is. All right, so just go ahead and gather all the stems up here. Try and get all the leaves hanging away from me. I'm gonna take the stems off. You can cook and eat with parsley stems, but we're using this more as like a garnish. So I want to make sure, or we're using it as a garnish as well. So I want to make sure I at least have some nice leaves in there. But much like cilantro, you can definitely use the stems. So I'm just bundling this up into a nice little bundle. We're just gonna try and run our knife over it as thin as possible. It's going to be our first cut. We're going to come back through with this because this is more of like a chiffonade, which is like a thin, thin cut. So good. Oh my God. It's going to be so good, guys. So you can see all that moisture is coming out of the cream right now. It's starting to thicken. The color looks really good. I can smell the whiskey cooking off, which is nice. Going to add a really nice flavor. While we're there, we may as well get in there, take a little taste. Oh, it's so good. Ooh, use a little bit of salt, just a touch. Again, it's a cream dish, so that's why I'm using salt. I normally wouldn't use this much salt at all, but cream is a really tough flavor to sort of, it's a fabulous flavor. It's really hearty, your body wants it, but when you're trying to fight against it, it is kind of a flat flavor. It tends to sort of flatten things out, make them really, really mild and nice, which is great for something like a really salty chowder or something like that. But for this, we really want that mushroom flavor to come through. So I want a little bit more salt, so I'm not just tasting cream. I can taste those mushrooms. Right now I'm tasting the mushrooms, but then the cream immediately takes over it. So I'm just trying to make sure that I can taste those mushrooms. So I'm just piling this up again and then just running my knife over it. I really like this knife because it has a curved tip. Because of that, I can do that sort of rock chop. It's a really nice time saver. Much better for your wrist than trying to the whole thing. All right, potato time. Let's get those back front and center. So potatoes, going back into my original pot, on the heat a little bit here. We're gonna go ahead and just start popping butter in there, 4 tablespoons. Just gonna check on sauce. Nice. Go ahead and scrape your sides down a little bit too. If you're doing this with me, make sure you don't want to. If you leave them there, they'll start to solidify, and you'll get kind of like almost like a cheesy strands in there. You don't really want that. But it's already starting to get thick, which is nice. You want it to be pretty thick, but not too thick that it's not really a gravy. You know, you don't want it's so you kind of want to scrape the bottom of the pan and see how things are looking. I just actually turn this off and let the sort of residual heat reduce it. And we'll take a look at it again when I'm done with the potatoes. So great, butter's starting to melt. Potato liquid starting to go. So I'm just going to mash that butter right into these potatoes. So good, perfect. Let me go ahead and put half cup of cream in here now. That they're a little bit mashed. You don't want, they don't have to be completely mashed before you put the cream in. You just want them to get pretty mashed up. Once you put the cream in there, it's going to be kind of it's going to get a little more liquidy, and so the mashing process can be a little tougher. But these are cooked really well, I think potentially perfectly. So we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going half cup of cream. See what that looks like. See if it's sort of smooth enough. It's more about texture. You want it to be very soft. You want to have a very soft potato. We're not looking for like a hard mashed potato that you can like pile something on top of lots of gravy or like dig a hole. We want something that's soft, and when we put that meat on it, we want it to almost like sink like a pillow. So that's kind of the texture you're looking for. If it's harder, go ahead and put a little more cream in there. If it looks soft, which I think this does already, got a little bit of those little chunky bits from that I was trying to cut out earlier. This looks really soft, so I think we're going to be good with that. And you just sort of kind of get an idea for the texture here. You can see it just kind of like falls off pretty nice and soft and delicious. And here, let me put it on a spoon and see if that sort of helps. Right, so still a little chunky, which is fine. It's a rustic dish. It doesn't have to be. We're talking about something. It doesn't have to be smooth. I was going to use the ricer. Dang it! I brought this thing out and I didn't even use it. That's okay. Anyways, this is a ricer. They're really cool. I guess I just have to make spezi or nerdy. What the heck are they called? Spezi with it, and then we'll have to use it again for something else. Perfect. So we are getting really close here, guys. This looks like it needs just a little bit more reducing, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But everything is kind of coming together right now. I'm going to try the sauce here, make sure that's good. Oh, that's tasty. Oh, so good. Try my potatoes. Yeah, those are really good. Oh my God. I mean, it's what it is. It can't be bad when it's got that much cream in it. I mean, I guess it could technically be that, but not today. Not in this house. I'm going to put this stuff away. Okay, cool, guys. Let's go ahead and get this rocking. Reduce the liquid. Awesome. Oh yeah, that's done. Go ahead and just I'm gonna take these little meat bits out of this pan. Put those pan juices back in that sauce. Don't want to waste anything. Perfect. And we're gonna hit this with some parsley. Ooh. So as you can see, guys, this is thickened up quite a bit. I can scrape the bottom like that and get a kind of a line in it now. That's generally how you can tell something is thick, is when it sort of has enough surface tension that it's not going to act like a liquid. You can scrape a line and it'll sort of take its time moving back in. So that looks perfect, nice and green. A little darker than, but that's pretty normal. Cooking on cast iron, things are going to be a little darker. Classically, we'd want that a little bit lighter, more of a white sort of look. But that's what it is. It's going to be delicious. That's all that really matters. Go ahead and pop this whiskey over here. Awesome. So we're going to grab a plate. I've got a this looks kind of nice. It's got a nice boat on it. Although I guess that's technically an American flag. Don't tell the Queen. This is our final rebellion tonight. These carrots are looking perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and drain the water off here. Really nice poached carrot. I'll just get you grab this real quick before you get over here. So it's fork tender. You know, I can shove a fork right in the end there, nice and easy. It's going to be a little bit harder here, which is perfect. It's going to just taste absolutely delicious. And that was just a low and slow, you know, low and slow poach on the carrots. You're going to end up in a really good place. Get this off the heat. I don't want to lose it. Oh my God, this is going to be so good. Okay, let's do this. Let's bring it together. So first things first, we got our mash. Look at that, right on time. I thought I was gonna be done early, but on time, I will take it. So we're gonna get our mash here, about a quarter of what you made or so. Get a nice little, almost like a quenelle. It's not gonna be a quenelle, but that's okay. And we're just gonna put that right on the plate right there. This plate is probably too big, honestly. I'm just gonna a little bit more, get that nice and high. I'm gonna grab our favorite piece of meat. I really like this one. I think it looks like a nice little piece of nicely cooked, and just pick our nice little side that we like there. I'm gonna go ahead and just rest that right on top of those potatoes. You want to kind of work with thirds anytime you're plating, right? So we got 1/3 here and then 2/3 here. We're gonna fill this third with the gravy when we plate it, when we pour it off, and there'll be an open third, and a little bit of the parsley will get in there to look really nice. And that's where we're gonna put the carrots too. So thirds, think thirds always. Got this nice little ladle here. I'm gonna go ahead and get my gravy. I'm actually gonna hit this with just a little bit more cream. It thickened up more than I wanted it to. So I'm just gonna touch it, hit it with a little bit of cream. That's gonna thin it out just enough that I can get it's gonna lighten the color a little bit too, which is nice. See, I don't know if you can tell the difference from there or not, but I want it a little bit thinner. I do want it to sort of act a little bit liquidy on this plate as I put it over the top of the meat. So we're gonna go ahead and just right on top of the meat, tons of mushrooms. Again, we want this to try and sort of fall off towards this third of the plate. Perfect. Make sure I get a little bit of that liquid on all the gravy. Beautiful. So there's our third here, and then our last third is going to have just a little bit of greens from the parsley. Then we're going to take 2 of our nice poached carrots, and we're just going to sort of rest them right up. They're so slippery. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I should have a smaller plate. Maybe just 1 carrot. Oh no, there we go. So if these are baby carrots, it's a little bit easier. We're close enough. All right, my friends. Hopefully, I think you saw that. There we go. So there we go, my friends. There is our Gaelic steaks with the mushroom gravy, poached carrots, some really nice parsnip and potato mash. And this looks really good. It tastes really good, I know, because I just tried everything. I'm going to go absolutely devour this. Well, let me turn off my fan. I think there's some questions I might have missed. I'm just going to take a quick peek there. Along with you, cannot wait to eat. Yeah, seriously, Robin, get it. It's so good. The video audition to the king. Yeah, right. I really like working at Edgerton Library, so I'm going to be staying here. Thank you very much, my friends. But guys, thanks
we love you too,
thanks
Chris.
for hanging. I'm really excited with how this turned out. I mean, these carrots are
That
a little,
looks amazing.
that's okay. Don't tell my chef, you know. Ooh.
Thank you so much, Chris. This was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have been able to do it. That came together pretty much perfectly. It's a fun dish. It's rich. It's a lot of and you can change pretty much any part of it and still end up with a good place. Put different veggies in with the cream sauce. Don't even do a cream sauce. You know, just do the potatoes and meat, and do roast veggies. Like, there's so many ways you can do it. But the good sort of method techniques there is really nice. I'm a little sad that I didn't use the ricer for you guys, but we'll come back to it, I promise. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for playing.
Thank you. It will be up on YouTube quite probably shortly. You've been getting them up pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I get it tomorrow, it'll go right up. And then don't forget to check out our YouTube, and don't forget to come back next month. We're going to be doing a little bit of celebrating. I won't say anything more than that. If you happen to know your holidays, you might know what we're talking about. But it's gonna be delicious. It's gonna be kind of like a double header too, so that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see you guys there.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.